This, I just published this 19 hours ago. So this was from some statistics that I gathered where we were looking at Palestinian children and how they are treated over there in Palestine, Israel. Let's call it what it is. It's Palestine. There's no such thing as Israel. It was a made up place. It was contrived by colonialist Western powers, and now it's just being paraded around as a legitimate country, while Palestinians who have been there the whole time have no recourse. And so maybe you guys don't know this, but Israel is the only country in the world that tries children in a military courtroom, as if that's somehow useful or prudent. So let's check it out. 13,000 Palestinian children have been arbitrarily detained, interrogated, tried in military courts, and imprisoned in Israel since 2000. Since the turn of the millennium, a staggering 13,000 Palestinian children have been thrust into a labyrinth of arbitrary detention, interrogation, and imprisonment by Israeli authorities. This figure is far from being a mere statistic. It's a representation of a generation of young lives disrupted, dreams deferred, and childhood stolen under the harsh glare of military occupation. The scale of the crisis is breathtaking. Each year, between 500 and 700 Palestinian minors find themselves ensnared in the Israeli military court system, a judicial apparatus that has been widely criticized for its lack of due process and failure to meet international standards for juvenile justice. These children, some as young as 12, face a bewildering and often traumatic journey through a system designed for adults, not vulnerable youths. So let's take it some stats. Like I said before, you have 500 to 700 Palestinian children detained each year. As of September 2023, you have 146 Palestinian minors being held in custody for what they would call security grounds, according to Israel's prison service. 86% of detained Palestinian children report being beaten in Israeli detention. 69% of detained Palestinian children report being strip searched. 59% of detained children were arrested at night, based on testimonies from 766 children between 2016 and 2022. And yes, this was a common theme that they do is coming in the middle of the night. We'll take a look at that. 86% of detained children report being blindfolded, and 97% report having had their hands bound, so handcuffed or zip-tied or whatever. So as of January 2024, 9,000 Palestinians total were being held in Israeli jails, up to 5,000 before October 7th. Ugly stuff. The process often begins in the dead of night. So according to the testimonies collected by 700 children, they usually recall being arrested during nighttime raids. So picture the scene. Armed soldiers bursting into families' homes, dragging bleary-eyed children out from their beds and leaving parents helpless and the entire communities traumatized. And once in custody, the ordeal intensifies, okay? A shocking 86% of the detained said that they were subjected to physical violence. They're handcuffed, blindfolded. They have no idea where they're going, what they did. They have no rights. The blindfolding and the hands bound. This isn't the system designed to rehabilitate. These are hallmarks of what one intended to intimidate or break someone's spirit. The process of dehumanization. So the interrogation process itself is the crucible of fear and coercion. So children face questioning without the presence of their parents or legal counsel. And that's a clear violation of all international norms. So imagine that your kid gets arrested or you as a kid got arrested and you go to jail and they read you your rights and they try you in a military courtroom, and the whole time you're 6 years old, you're 10 years old, you have no idea what's happening. Under such pressure, it's little wonder why many of the kids sign confessions in a language they don't understand, in Hebrew, just to end the ordeal. The long-term impacts of this system are profound and far-reaching. Education is disrupted, family bonds are strained, and the psychological scars can last a lifetime. A study by the Palestinian Council Center found that 75% of former child detainees exhibited symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I can tell you, even the police that I dealt with in my high school left indelible marks on me that I'll always remember, and I'll always have certain opinions about those particular officers and also everybody that's in that occupation. Occupation in this sense meaning job, policemen, people who think that they're worthy of being authority figures over me and my sovereignty. The international community has not remained silent. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of a Child has repeatedly called Israel to end the night arrests, to ensure access to lawyers, and prohibit the use of solitary confinement for minors, yet the practice continues. Israel doesn't listen to anyone. And of course, the surge of detentions following October 7th is alarming. In 5 months, an estimated 460 Palestinian children were detained, highlighting how quickly progress can be reversed in times of heightened conflict. So the system of juvenile detention, too, it's not just a legal issue. It's a moral crisis. It strikes at the heart of human rights principles and everything that we've decided that we are in order to give ourselves the title of being civilized people. A betrayal of the promise of childhood and a potential seed of future conflict. And that you're actually enraging these people and creating radicalization through this kind of shit. It's terrible. It's terrible. And let's talk about the torture, because at this point nobody's hiding it. Israel is openly committing torture, and we all know it. Recent reports have shed light on deeply troubling allegations on widespread torture and abuse of Palestinian detainees by Israeli forces in Gaza. Not just allegations of torture and abuse, widespread, meaning everybody's doing it. According to the UN Human Rights Office report, thousands of Palestinians, including medical personnel and children, have been arbitrarily detained since October 7th. Detainees have reported being subjected to horrific treatment, including being confined in cage-like environments, stripped, left in diapers for extended periods of time, and enduring various forms of physical and psychological torture. Now, we talked about torture yesterday with Abu Ghraib. What happened there? The Iraqi prison where they tortured about 8,000 people who the high majority of them were innocent. Torturing innocent people out of paranoia and just pure show of power, show of force. So back to Israel, though. The accounts describe practices such as waterboarding, electric shocks, and the use of attack dogs. Human Rights Watch has documented specific cases of medical workers being tortured and threatened with sexual violence. Now, we already know that Israel likes to put hot metal rods up people's asses for torture, for whatever reason, for a goof, for fun. Sick human beings. The scale of the allegations at this point is staggering, with at least 53 Palestinian detainees report to have died in custody. International observers, including the UN High Commission for Human Rights, have called these actions blatant breach of international human rights law and humanitarian law, which, again, guys, is something we made up to try to progress to a level where we're more civilized. But humanity has no interest in being civilized, as far as I can tell. Because time and time again, you might say, oh, it's white people. Oh, it's this. I think it's more widespread. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot, you might be surprised. But Israel and America and Western culture has reigned supreme as the aggressive oppressor in the last, 500 years or more. Despite Israel's claims of adhering to international standards, the mounting evidence suggests a systematic problem of detainee abuse, raising serious concerns about human rights violations and the need for immediate and independent investigations and accountability. Well, tell me something I don't know. It seems as though we're in a spot where people are being tortured yet again in your name, in the name of good, God-fearing, white, rich, Judeo-Christian, Western, capitalist people. And unfortunately, we're all in that boat together. We got to change something, because we can't be having psychopaths be behind the wheel of the stuff that's important. So there you go.